See this little shelf right here? The last video I did, I was watching myself back while I was editing and I realized that is covered in dust. I think I got enough off of it to make it look presentable. I suck at housekeeping. Hi BookTube, it's Kim at K Becker's Books, and I'm coming to you today with the DNF tag. This was originated by Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, Scott and Noel, and I was tagged by Paper Knot Books, and I'm gonna, thank you very much, I'm gonna link those channels down below. This is a fun one. It's talking about you DNFing books. Do you DNF? When do you DNF? Which books? Blah, 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 blah. So let's get into it. Number one, do you DNF books? Yes, I do. There was a time when I hated not finishing a book, even if I hated the book. And a lot of my my critical chicks in our book group discuss this a lot, that there are so many of us that hate DNFing books. It's almost like Toy Story with books, that you're afraid you're going to hurt the book's feelings. I don't feel like that anymore. And this is an ongoing conversation that we have, because there's still so many of us that just hate to not finish. Especially when it's a book group book. I try very hard to finish it, but I can tell very early on if I'm going to hate it, if it's going to be a bad book. And I've gotten to the point in my years of life that I know better, that I don't want to take the time to read a bad book, and I will DNF it. And since I've been watching BookTube since last year, I have learned from the master, that is Sean the Book Maniac. Number two, if you DNF, does it count towards the books you've read for the month? I keep track on Goodreads, as many of us do. It typically does not, unless, and I don't even know if this has ever happened, but unless I get almost to the end of a book and I'm like, I can't take this anymore. But that doesn't usually happen for me, because I don't go that far if I am not enjoying a book. So I have a specific folder all unto itself called DNFs, and I put them into that folder because I like to keep track, but I don't want them to count in my books read for the month. And I found the trick in Goodreads, and I'm not sure if this is a thing, if everybody's aware of this, but I remove the dates so that it doesn't register that I read it on this date and I finished it on this date. And that's worked. So it does not count it in the quantity of books I read for the month. Number three, is there a difference between a DNF and just putting it down for a bit? Yes, there is a difference, and I have the perfect example. Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. I started reading this book back in February during Black History Month, and realized very quickly that there's a lot of substance in the book. And I had been reading so many other books at the same time, told myself, there's a lot here to digest, and this is probably not a good time to try to speed read this for the month. So I got about a little less than halfway, and I put it down, fully intending on finishing it at some point in the near future. And I did. I actually finished it last week, a week ago, something like that. So it's July. So it went from February till July, but it sat for a few months. I did not DNF it though, because I was fully intending to go back to it, to analyze it, to tab it like crazy, to do my highlights, because it's an important book. And even though it was published in the 50s, it's important to race relations now in the 2020s, and to apply what the themes are in this book to our current political climate. I think that's the only book I've ever put down with the intention of picking it back up again. There may have been many more in my early life, but I don't have any history of those. Number four, what popular book have you DNF'd? A whole friggin' bunch of them. Let's see. I just, in my Bookish Week video, my last one, I told you how disappointed I was that I DNF'd Mexican Gothic. I was pissed because it was a brand new Book of the Month Club release that I bought, and I have a few other friends that were reading it. I picked it up and read the first chapter and wanted to immediately get rid of it. I hated the writing, and DNF'd it. Another one was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. I read, I don't know, 50, 75 pages and I couldn't get into the story and I wasn't impressed with the writing. Another one is, oh, this is a good one. And I've talked about this before, but I've DNF'd Normal People by Sally Rooney. Yeah, I did. I couldn't stand that book. I actually started reading it. I got, again, another 50 pages. I skim read most of it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I put it down and DNF'd it. I just didn't like it at all. And then the last one, I don't even have the author's name and I don't care. You'll see it in my little picture. It's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a... And this was such an offensive book to read. We read it or started to read it for our book group. And I hated this book with a blind, red-hot white passion. Does that make sense? I could not stand this book. It was so offensive and so derogatory towards women. And when he brought up trying to date or molest or assault Jennifer Aniston, I threw it. And I'm like, nope, not going to finish this book. Let's see. Number 5. What book do you wish you had DNF'd? If you've watched any of my history of BookTube from last year, you'll not be surprised by this, but a part of me wishes I had DNF'd 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. I read that book specifically to review it. And that was my worst nonfiction read of last year. And I will link my video down below. Atrocious writing, mismatch in the marketing versus what the book actually was about, horrible themes. It was not a book about women's sexuality. It was a book about women's dysfunctionality and the author's very strange backstory. I watched videos of Lisa Taddeo, the author. There was Waterstones puts out a lot of author videos. I watched that one. And I watched a couple more, and I also read a couple of articles about Lisa Taddeo as an author and the themes in the book, and none of it matched up to what I read. And it was a gross book, and I immediately wanted to get rid of it, which I did. Number 6, do you ever re-attempt to read a DNF? Has this ever been successful for you? Yes, there are 2. One of them that I was successful at rereading, and that is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I had started reading it years ago, and I think I got like to 200, it's a really long book, and got to 200 pages, and put it down like, yeah, I can't get into this story. And then several years ago in our book group, we picked it as our monthly pick, and I read it and absolutely fell in love with it. I've since read the first 4 books in this very long series, and I'm halfway through the 5th book, which is The Fiery Cross, and I put that down a long time ago, actually. It's on my Kindle, so I stopped reading it a while ago. I will probably get to it, and I will probably start at the beginning. And I've been binge rewatching the Netflix portion of Outlander through season 3, and I don't think the other seasons are on Netflix yet. And I've already watched them. I subscribe to Stars to watch the series, and then I discontinue my subscription, and then I'll renew it when the next season comes on. I'm awful. I'm an awful person. Stupid. Anyway, so yeah, that was one of them, but I actually really loved Outlander. I loved that book. And the next one is this book. Now, I think I might have, yes, I did. I had this in my, my bullet list books video, which again, I'll link below. I have tried to read this book and put it down, DNF'd it 3 times. Why, do you ask, am I even bothering to try again? Because I am determined to not look like an idiot. And it is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I have the whole trilogy. I have Bring Up the Bodies and Mirror in the Light. Why did I DNF it in the first place? I couldn't get into it. I have tried 3 times to read this book. It is an incredibly well-written book. it is complex. And I look back in time in my crystal ball and I think, why did I put it down? It wasn't the book. I think it was me, and it was the time that I tried to read it. This is not a beach read. It's not a book you read in a week. This is a book that I will probably have to read with an encyclopedia open on my laptop, or be able to do some research or have supplemental reading while reading this very complex novel. But why am I bothering? It sounds stupid. It really does. Because I really want to read this book. Why do I want to read it? I don't know. Because I love the time period. I love stories of Henry VIII. I love complex narratives about the church. I want to read this book. It's stupid, I know. And then I want to read that book, and then I want to read the whole series. It wasn't my bucket list video, so yeah, that's what I want to do. It hasn't been successful so far. The only success was Outlander, so yeah, there was that. Let's see. Number 7, what do you do with books you DNF? I friggin' chuck them out the door. I can't wait to get rid of DNFs. If it's a physical copy, I will give it away. I will donate it. I have DNF'd Kindle books that I have removed from my Kindle library. I tend to have a very violent reaction to books that I DNF. And I insist on wanting to get rid of them immediately. God forbid it's a library book. I DNF it. There've been a couple. I DNF'd Joe Hill's The Fireman. Oh, geez, I'm crow. That thing was 750 pages. And it's like on and on and on. Like, I slammed the book shut and put it to the side. What else did I DNF from the library? Stephen King's The Outsider. The two of them, I mean, father and son. I am not a Stephen King fan. We picked this book for book group. I tried to read it. I was disgusted with it, DNF'd it. Again, it was a hardcover, so I was able to slam the cover down on itself and put it aside until I could throw it. I could whip it back into the library return box. That's what I do with DNFs. Number 8, do you choose more or less risky titles because of your stance on DNFs? This was an interesting question. Do I choose more risky titles, less risky titles? How has my process of choosing books been affected by my stance on DNFs? And what I've realized, especially lately, is, and I also realized this I keep interrupting myself, my own sentences, and I know I do that in my videos, so bear with me. Let's go back to last year. Last year, I was one of the judges of the BookTube Prize, and it was all fiction last year. And the BookTube Prize is comprised of new releases. And I am historically not a fan of new releases and have not had great luck with them. And I realized in that process of judging the BookTube Prize, new releases are not working out for me. There have been exceptions. And I found the same thing this year. I'm not involved in the BookTube Prize this year, but the books that I've picked up that have been new releases are usually the ones I am most disappointed with. And I don't know why. There have been many that I've loved. The books that I listed that I DNF'd, the 4 popular books, and there have been more popular books, the thing that they have in common is bad writing, in my opinion. I need to have very well written stories. Now, what is well written? Isn't that subjective? Yes and no. You can tell when something is well written by the craft of the writing and the artistry in the writing. If a book is filled with cliches and similes, I will throw it. That is poor writing. If a book is very descriptive with words and phrases that are wasteful, that don't need to be there, that are overly long, that sound like somebody really worked on that sentence for a couple of hours, that often happens with a debut novel. And when I am reading a debut novel and I come across that, I kind of give the author some slack because it's their debut and I'm not going to hold all of that against them. However, if a book has gotten to the point where it's published for mass release, I'm gonna pay attention to how masterful I believe the writing to be. So each of those 4 books, those 4 popular books that I DNF'd, I thought had crappy writing. And not all of them were debuts. I just couldn't stand the writing. The stories were fine. I don't always need an intricate or even a mundane plot. I love a book with a good plot. If a book has a great plot and beautiful writing, it's going to be a 5-star book for me. But I am a reader who loves character development and the craft of the writing more than plot. Again, there are exceptions, especially with genres, different genre books, whether it's romance or fantasy or crime fiction or mystery. They are going to be written differently than a literary novel or a contemporary novel, and that's very clear. We all know that. So have I picked differently, or have I picked, am I safer when I pick? Do I choose risky or less risky titles? In that whole ramble of an answer, this is the point I was trying to get to. What I have learned about myself is I truly value classics, and I value the backlist. I value books that, especially modern classics, anything by Toni Morrison, Wallace Stegner, some of the modern classics, William Faulkner. I love Jane Austen, and I love George Eliot. Those aren't modern classics. Jhumpa Lahiri. What else? I wish I could give you a whole bunch. I'm looking at my shelves. I wish I could tell you a lot more. But that's all I have for now. There are so many modern classics that, Margaret Atwood. Those types of authors I recognize that I appreciate the most. And so when I get really frustrated with a contemporary or a new release that I DNF'd, I bounce back to either classics or modern classics because I trust them. And if a book has been around that long and is still in publication, there's a really good reason for that. So risky, not really. I will keep going back and forth. I will try again. I will pick up new releases. I will pick up experimental or speculative fiction, and typically I enjoy that because I love the difference in writing style. So yeah, that's about it. It's funny because way back in the day when Oprah first started her book club, her advice was give the book at least 50 pages. And if you don't like it after 50, you're probably not going to like it. Don't finish it. Don't read the book. I don't think 50 is enough because I've read books that, especially long books, that 50 pages does not give you a picture of what the book is going to be like. And I typically will go 100 pages. So it depends on the length of the book. So I have some guidelines as to if I'm going to continue to read, or if I'm going to throw a book across the room, or if I'm going to put a book down and just give it a DNF. So those are my standards. And those are the answers to my tag. And the last prompt is to tag 5 people. I'm not going to tag anybody. If you've done the tag, write a comment down below and let me know, give me a link to your video so I can find it. Or if you haven't done the tag, then do the tag. You're tagged. That's it. I hope you had fun listening to me and my rambles. I hope you write a comment below whether you agree or disagree with me. Let me know if you DNF books. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.